Over the last 11 months, we've all expanded our vocabulary and started using words we never used before, things like furlough and social distancing and herd immunity and all sorts. Well, I learned a new word this week, and that word is shorting. Shorting. Now, some of you may know exactly what that word means. I certainly didn't. I'm not going to try and explain it here, but what shorting did is it gave the opportunity for a very interesting thing to happen, and that is as follows. A group on an internet forum worked hard to basically band together to try and drive up the stock price of a group of shares, of a certain share or a group of shares, and in doing so they caused major hedge funds to lose a lot of money. Now, what's interesting about, there are actually many aspects of this that are interesting, but what I'd like to draw out for the moment is the fact that a lot of this centers around a really interesting debate as to whether the market, as to whether all these stocks and things are real or not, whether this is really just trying to prove a point or whether they're just trying to make some money. All of this is very, very interesting debate. And it reminded me of the fact that in the world we live in, there is a whole great debate about what's real and what's not. Of course, we've all spent time hearing about whether something is fake news or not. And I personally am very surprised at some of the people who have been sort of peddling some of the vaccination conspiracy theories and all those sorts of things. And it really has got me thinking over the last number of months as to how we understand reality and truth and all those sorts of things. This week we lost a number of remarkable people to this pandemic. And one of them, I'd just like to share a brief idea in his name and from, in fact, his book, and that is Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky. People can look him up, a remarkable person, a psychiatrist as well, someone who helped people with addictions for many, many years, and a remarkable teacher as well, a very, very wonderful, wonderful person who unfortunately passed away earlier this week. And he, in his book on Parashat Yitro, this week's parasha, notes a very, very interesting thing. One of the early commandments is Lo tisa et shem Elokecha lashav, not to take God's name in vain. And the Talmud actually says that when God commanded this, when he spoke this commandment, that the entire world trembled. It seems that this commandment was more fundamental in a sense than all of the others. Rabbi Twersky asks why. And what he answers is as follows. That Lo tisa, this commandment not to take God's name in vain, challenges us to analyze our motivations. That in reality, all of the other commandments expect us to perform certain things, expect us to act in a certain way, or expect us not to act in a certain way. They tell us to do this or that. And in reality, we're the ones who decide whether we do that or not, whether we actually go through and perform those commandments or not. But deep down, there is a motivation. There's a motivation to either follow the commandment or not follow the commandment, to do what God expects of us or to not do what God expects of us. When we do something wrong, there is a motivation for that. And what Lo tisa is telling us is that we need to be totally honest with ourselves about that motivation. When we do something wrong, we often justify it to ourselves. We tell ourselves that actually it wasn't so bad. Actually, I know why I did it. Actually, there was good reason for me to do that. Actually, I don't really believe in that. But deep down, we always know our own motivation. The commandment of Lo tisa, this commandment not to take God's name in vain, is challenging us to say, would we swear to that in front of God? Would we swear to what we're telling ourselves, to the justifications? Would we swear to them in front of the Almighty? Or do we deep down know that we were acting out of fear, or acting because of self-promotion, or acting because we didn't really want to let go of our desires? I personally found this very moving. In a world where it's perhaps increasingly difficult to figure out what is true and what is real, it is critical for us to be honest with ourselves about what is deep down inside of us and what motivates our own actions. Shabbat Shalom.